Let's begin the news at this hour by telling you that the Nigerian government has suspended the October Federation Accounts Allocation Committee payment to Rivers State amid a feud between Governor Siminalayi Fubara and the Federal Capital Territory Minister Nyesom Wike. The Accountant General's office confirmed compliance with a court order barring disbursement. A federal high court ruled against allocating funds to Rivers State following a case filed by a faction of the State Assembly led by Martin Amewule. The disputes centers on Governor Fubara's alleged failure to resubmit the 2024 budget to the Assembly faction, which is backed by former Governor Wike. Meanwhile, FACT's October allocations to all states remain undistributed pending due process. The political rift highlights deepening tensions in Rivers State's leadership. In the meantime, Governor Siminalayi Fubara has urged the Court of Appeal sitting in Abuja to set aside the judgments that barred the Central Bank of Nigeria from releasing monthly allocations to Rivers State. The governor, through his team of lawyers, prayed a three-member panel of the appellate court led by Justice Ahmad Barka to vacate the High Court's order, which he maintained was issued in bad faith. He urged the appellate court to allow its appeal and nullify adverse orders that Justice Joyce Abdulmalik of the Federal High Court made against the state in the judgments she delivered on October 30. Governor Fubara's plea came on a day that Justice Barka-led panel consolidated 5 other appeals that arose from the said judgment of the High Courts. We stay away from court matters for now to tell you that we stay with court matters, I must say. The Supreme Court has nullified the National Lottery Act 2005 enacted by the National Assembly. In a unanimous judgment on Friday, a 7-member of the Apex Court held that the National Assembly lacked the powers to legislate on issues relating to lottery and games of chance. The court held that such powers only reside with the State Houses of Assembly, which poses exclusive jurisdiction over lottery and games of chance. In the lead judgment by Justice Muhammad Idris, ordered that the National Lottery Act 2005 should no longer be enforced in all states except the Federal Capital Territory, in respect of which the National Assembly is empowered to make laws. But I'll tell you that the federal government of Nigeria will likely apply for the extradition of Simon Ekpa, the leader of the Eastern Security Network, the paramilitary organization of the indigenous people of Biafra. The Director of Defense Information, Brigadier General Tukur Guzo, who gave the indication, said Ekpa, a self-proclaimed disciple of IPOB leader Nnamdi Kanu, should be extradited to Nigeria to face criminal charges. However, the IPOB dissociated itself from the embattled Biafran separatist, asserting it had no relationship with him. Ekpa is one of the 97 individuals declared wanted by the Defense Headquarters in March 2024. The Finland-based Biafran agitator is a close ally of the IPOB leader Nnamdi Kanu, who is facing charges of terrorism, treasonable felony, and inciting violence through his Radio Biafra, amongst other faults. Let's now head to the Parliament, where we understand that the National Assembly has amended the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency (NDLEA) Act, prescribing life imprisonment for drug offenders and traffickers. The decision came after the Senate and House of Representatives adopted the harmonized report of the NDLEA Act amendment. Senator Tahir Manguno, chairman of the Senate Conference Committee, stated that the stricter penalties aim to deter illegal drug activities. The Senate approved the amendment through a voice vote during Thursday's plenary session, presided over by the Deputy Senate President, Barrow Jibrin. In addition, lawmakers passed the Revenue Mobilization Allocation and Fiscal Commission RMAFC Bill 2024, which seeks to replace the Act for 2004. The proposed legislation is designed to enhance the agency's capacity to manage revenue allocation effectively. Both bills now await President Bola Tinubu's assent before it becomes law. Talking about the new borrowing plan by the Nigerian government, former Vice President Atiku Abubakar strongly criticized President Bola Tinubu's recent 1.77 trillion naira dollar loan approval, calling it bone-crushing and harmful to Nigerians. In a post on his X-handle, Atiku accused the administration of mismanaging loans, prioritizing corruption over development. He also slammed the National Assembly for approving the loan, saying Nigeria is sinking further into debt. Atiku expressed dismay over the country's return to heavy borrowing, recalling efforts during the Obasanjo administration to clear foreign debt. He warned that Nigeria's ranking as the third most indebted nation to the International Development Association highlights the risk of what he described as a dangerous loan frenzy. Now, joining us on the news to discuss this is a public affairs analyst, Theophilus Akatuba, is right here in our studios. Thank you so much, Mr. Theophilus, for joining us.
Pleasure to be with you.
So let's look at the 1.77 trillion loan that the Nigerian president has sought approval and gotten. It was ratified by the National Assembly. When you look at the portfolio of the country, we are going to be looking at all the loans now. We're already looking at 130 trillion that is to be paid back. Is there any justification to start with for this loan?
Well, you know, when we talk about issues of money, loans, borrowing, all the economists will be divided based on where they stand, you know, based on which part of the divide they belong to. The political economists will advance very sound argument why they borrow. The political economists of the opposition will also advance the reason why we shouldn't borrow. The reality of the matter is Nigeria economically sound for the development it desires? We want to develop. Do we have the resources for the development we so seek, or we so hold our government to? Because the easiest thing to do in this Nigeria is to just say somebody is corrupt, and then he discredits whatever he's doing. Because corruption is the culture of everyone, including those who are now in opposition. Because when they find themselves there, they don't do any difference. They only use the polity, they use the argument to win the votes, and on getting there, they do exactly the same. People said Buhari borrowed too much, and at the beginning they said this government will not borrow. They've started borrowing. I live in Ghana for many years. It's also the same argument. The government of Akufo-Addo kept borrowing. Many countries of Africa, because of the fact that we are not very productive as a people, and we do not earn enough to be able to match the development that we so seek. And if you have that shortfall, most of the African countries, they resort to borrowing. Even international countries of the West, they borrow. Yeah, but the argument is, why should we borrow? If we do not borrow, what do we do? Do we have the money to run the government?
But you see that, you know, the Nigerian government or this current administration has been able to, according to it, save monies from fuel subsidies and from the stop or the end to fuel imports. Yeah. So why can't, and we've also seen FAC allocations increased. So why can't we, you know, have those funds being channeled into government expenditure instead of having to borrow again?
But you know that the subsidy was, we were borrowing to pay it. It was not as if we had a stash of money somewhere. No. And every time we borrowed to pay the subsidy, and that mounted the debt. President Buhari borrowed Nigeria to the point of 97% of our money, of our revenue, was going to service those debts. Buhari was borrowing to keep subsidy. Buhari was borrowing to defend the naira. So borrowing has always been the way they do things. What I want to say is this. Now, if the government want to borrow, they should borrow for developmental purpose, so that we don't borrow for consumption. That's the argument. Borrow right. All nations of the world do borrow. Politicians just use the borrowing and the non-borrowing for argument. Atiku is right, if you look at it from his own point of view. But to say there are dark consequences and all of that, he is right to the extent of the fact that we're not very productive. So if you borrow for consumption, for recurrent expenditure, at the end of the day, the loan becomes an albatross. We keep paying from resources that we do not have. So he is right to that extent. And the president of the country and the government in power will also argue And when you see the two economists argue, it's like two lawyers arguing, and everything look and sound right.
So you've talked about production. You've actually hammered on production. We know that oil production has increased to about 1.8 million barrels per day, and that could be a very good source of FX. Yeah. But then that is just oil.
Yeah.
What other areas do you think Nigeria should be focusing on? We've talked about agriculture, but we've not really seen that spin-off.
First of all, the country needs to put together an enabling environment to galvanize production. What are we doing? What is the country doing? So that people can bring in investment, people can manufacture, people can go back and be comfortable doing business. If activities, even in the real estate sector, hospitality industry, if the cost of running a hotel is brought down minimally, and people can if people can visit Nigeria happily, and the insecurity is not scaring people with dollars flowing into the country, then you see that there will be revenue for government to be able to pay back its commitments to anybody.
But that's still dependent on government policies also, because when investors look at a particular economy, they're looking at the body language of that economy. They're looking at the policy of government if it will be favorable. They're looking at the business ecosystem. If it is something they know that if they put their money in, they'll be able to get something. Back. So we are basically talking about economic stability.
Correct. But the positive, the good news is that the international community feel comfortable with Nigeria. If you look at a lot of reviews, only few dissent.
That's on paper.
Just hold on. Some people say that some of the reforms are quite drastic, but they say we're on the right track. Even the IMF says if we are consistent. Now, the positive outlook is dampened by insecurity, is dampened by the voice of Nigerians saying our country is not safe. Everything we say is part of the intelligence gathering. What are we saying about
But most of the companies that left in Nigeria, let's say in the couple of months, have always talked about one thing: FX. No. Which boils down to the policy of government in that line.
No, that's been resolved with the payment of the backlog of 7 billion. Before that time, even the Emirates people said they were leaving the country, they were not going to fly here because they were unable to repatriate their proceeds and their profits. But with the central bank's behavior, having paid the backlog, you can see the Emirates guys are back, and I think that sent some positive signal into the international community.
So basically, you're saying now that Nigerian government should continue, and it seems as though it's almost like a monthly ritual now for this sort of borrowing. So are you invariably saying that the Nigerian government should continue to borrow as long as it's able to channel it into
if government is using the Jimon came on TV and spoke about something we should do, but that we could borrow ourselves out of poverty. He said that. The point is, what are you using the money that comes into Nigeria? Are we collectively a productive nation? Collectively. The things we do we discuss productivity? Do we discuss solution to our problem? We've been having food crisis. How much food have we produced to double the food supply into the market for food prices to drop? The question is, are we productive?
Are we productive? Yeah. And also talks about accountability, not just, borrowing.
Well, accountability is one thing. Another thing is the vigilance of the citizenry. Sometimes when we are docile or we are participants in corruption, we only pay lip service to the fight against corruption.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much, I'm Theophilus Akatuba, Public Affairs Analyst. It was nice talking to you.
It's a pleasure.
We're going on a very short break on the news. When we return, ahead of 2027 election, Labour Party denies collusion with President Tinubu. We will give you the details when we're back. Join us again. Many thanks for staying with us. The Labour Party has firmly rejected fresh allegations of covert collaboration with President Bola Tinubu and the All Progressives Congress in support of his re-election for the 2027 general elections. The National Publicity Secretary of the Labour Party, Obiora Ifor, clarified the party's position in a statement issued in Abuja on Friday. Ifor's response came after a viral video surfaced featuring human rights lawyer Deji Adeyanju accusing the Labour Party leadership of collaborating with President Tinubu's loyalists to facilitate his return to the State House in 2027. The Labour Party spokesman dismissed the allegation, describing it as a fabrication and a product of Adeyanju's imagination. He further challenged the activist to provide substantive evidence to support his claims. The Arawa Consultative Forum has suspended its National Executive Committee Chairman, Maman Mike Osuman, over an unauthorized statement made during a recent council meeting in Kaduna. Osuman was quoted as saying the North would back a northern candidate for the 2027 presidency, a remark the ACF leadership described as its personal opinion. In a statement signed by BOT Chairman Alhaji Bashir Dalhatu and Secretary General Alhaji Murtala Aliyu, the forum emphasized its commitment to unity and rejected Osuman's unilateral stance. A committee has been set up to investigate the matter, with the ACF assuring the public of its integrity and adherence to collective decision-making principles. In the Nigerian economy, the International Monetary Fund has pledged technical support for Nigeria's budget design and implementation process. This was made known by the IMF Managing Director Kristalina Georgieva as she met with President Bola Tinubu at the sidelines of the ongoing G20 Leaders Summit holding in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. While commending Nigeria's federal government for several key reforms, which the IMF says has begun to reposition the nation's economy, she commended Nigeria for its social safety net and its programs promising to help stabilize and rebound the nation's economy.
Now we are in our budget phase where we are beginning to design our budget. And so the IMF is saying, oh, they can actually give us technical support for budget design and budget implementation to make sure that the budget is effective. And actually, we're focusing on the areas in the budget that we should focus on to give us maximum benefit and for the economy to feel the rebound. And they are very pleased, especially also with the social safety net program that we've implemented to ensure that the poor and the vulnerable group in the society are getting the impact of all the palliatives that we are giving out and helping to cushion the effect of the PMS subsidy and the FX subsidy removal. And so they are pledging more support to help Nigeria stabilize.
And talking job creation, Nigeria's federal government says that it will collaborate with the World Bank to provide direct and indirect jobs for about 10 million youths within the next 5 years. Nigeria's Minister of Youth Development made this known in Abuja as he hosted a delegation from the World Bank in the nation's capital. He says that the partnership will enable the government to reach out to citizens in rural communities that have not been impacted by government programs in a long while.
We assume this office, we are focused as to achieve this following: establish a strong coordinate mechanism for all young initiatives, focus on economic inclusion in Nigeria. We want the data to inform all we do. We want it. It's very, very important. Provide decent job, directly or indirectly, for at least 10 million Nigerian youths within the next 5 years. So with you, I know if we are really proactive about this and we know what we are doing, even in the next 2 years, we will record the large numbers of Nigerian youth that directly or indirectly they are engaged.
The first one is, again, give them the skills and match them to a job that they are suited for. The second is facilitate managed migration opportunities, which means that, which would be good, because it will probably not give jobs to everybody, but it will relieve the stress on the economy, particularly when there are not enough domestic jobs. And the third pillar is the fallback employment, and there could be safety net type support, like public works, where they get some income, but at the same time use that as a platform to link them to more skilling entrepreneurship.
Away from that, Nigeria's National Human Rights Commission, alongside several civil society organizations, government agencies, and pro-human rights stakeholders, have launched a 16-day campaign against gender-based violence as part of preparations for this year's International Human Rights Day, which will be observed on December 10. The executive secretary of the commission says that the campaign will raise awareness of human rights issues and engage key stakeholders to advocate for policy reforms aimed at preventing and responding to issues bordering on gender-based violence, particularly violence against women and girls.
On Monday, the 25th of November, there will be a road show across the 36 states in collaboration with civil society organizations, the Nigerian Bar Association, FIDA, and other stakeholders from a designated point, which will be the NHRC office, to the office of the First Lady of each state, who then receives the group and launch the start of the 16 days of activism in that state. On the 26th of November, there will be visits by the NHRC and stakeholders in all the states to the Speaker of the House of Assembly across the states for advocacy and lobby for legislations on violence against women and girls. As we embark on this 16 days journey, I urge everyone to join us in this effort to prevent and respond to gender-based violence.
Talking about World Children's Day, the United Nations International Children's Emergency Fund, also known as UNICEF, has called for urgent and timely investments alongside increased budget allocation to childhood development, maternal health and neonatal care. This appeal was made during the release of UNICEF's 2024 updated situation analysis report on children and adolescents in Nigeria, presented as part of the 2024 World Children's Day commemoration. Our correspondent Joshua Imarai reports.
According to the UNICEF 2024 situation analysis of children and adolescents in Nigeria, nearly 110 million children aged between 0 and 17 make up half of the country's population, with 1 in 2 living in poverty. It also reveals that over 18 million school-age children are out of school. These concerns were highlighted at UNICEF's World Children's Day event in Abuja, where stakeholders called for urgent action to implement policies that support Nigerian children.
We must increase investment on education, so every child has a right to learn and thrive. We must strengthen healthcare system, ensuring that no child is left behind. We must act decisively to protect children from violence and create safe environment for them to grow.
For our leaders, policymakers, partners in the room, let us remind ourselves that this situation analysis is a real call to action, and we hope it's being used by you to take your decisions and to move ahead.
The Chief Executive Officer of the Nigerian Economic Summit Group present at the event also called on the government to take a leading role in addressing critical issues affecting children in the country.
That with these numbers, we really are a country of irresponsible adults. That we have 20 million unregistered childbirths, that we have 23 million child marriages, where the girl child is not protected. We need government to lead from the front.
Also, Nigeria's Minister of Budget and Economic Planning, who was presented at the event, assured that the government is committed to addressing the challenges affecting children nationwide.
The situation analysis report will support the implementation of these policies that further reduce childhood poverty, infant mortality, and other child-related issues. I want to sincerely assure you that the government of Nigeria will continue to protect the rights of children.
The 2024 World Children's Day celebration concluded with the illumination of the City Gate and the Federal Capital Territory, symbolizing the celebration of children and reaffirming a collective commitment to their rights and well-being. In Abuja for News Central, I am Joshua Imarai.
Let's now tell you that Niger State has reaffirmed its commitment to advancing a green economy during its side event at COP29 in Baku, Azerbaijan. According to the Secretary to the State Government, Abubakar Usman, the state has developed essential frameworks to transition towards sustainable development and environmental preservation. News Central's Bettina Imweli tells us more.
Building on its progress at COP28, the determination of Niger State to position itself as a leader in Nigeria's sustainability cannot be downplayed, with efforts being made to utilize its rich natural resources and strategic initiatives. Speaking at the COP29, the Secretary to the State Government, Mr. Abubakar Usman, emphasized the state's potential, noting its vast expanse of arable land, extensive water bodies and abundant natural resources.
We have come up with the necessary framework that will enable us thrive in this cycle. We also have passed the necessary laws. We have appointed the necessary consultants, both local and international, and that is giving us edge over others, and we are truly ready to go. And like you know, agri is our mainstay in Niger State and Nigeria at large, and we are leveraging on that to make sure we truly drive the benefits of the green.
The State Commissioner for Environment and Climate Change, Honorable Yakubu Kolo, highlighted the support received from the State House of Assembly for initiatives such as afforestation, waste management, and renewable energy.
We are ready to work. We are not joking. That is just the words. Niger State is on the map. We are ready to go to the moon, like one of my colleagues said, as far as anything green is concerned. Be it afforestation, reforestation, be it waste management, be it solar, renewable energies, we want to be there. Because we have the resources, we have the natural resources, we have the land, and I believe with this, our participation in this year COP is to leverage on what we have started in COP28.
Niger State's energetic involvement at COP29 underscores its readiness to take on climate change challenges and situate itself as a prototype for green advancement in Nigeria. In Azerbaijan, for News Central, I am Bettina Unwili.
As technology continues to reshape the world, Nigerian youths are finding innovative ways to navigate the future. With internet access becoming more widespread, they are redefining what it means to hustle in a digital age. In this report, News Central's Chidema Ona explores how young Nigerians are leveraging the internet to build careers, transition industries, and create opportunities in a competitive job market.
For decades, the term hustle culture in Nigeria has been synonymous with relentless hard work, often in the informal or manual labor sectors. However, internet access is rapidly transforming this narrative, enabling Nigerian youths to transition from traditional jobs to digitally driven careers. Today, young people are embracing online learning, freelancing, and tech entrepreneurship as pathways to success. On the streets of Lagos, opinions on this shift are mixed. Some see the internet as a gateway to opportunities, while others worry about accessibility and affordability.
I subscribe like, let's say 7 gigabytes for 2 days. A lot of people cannot afford that, and because I subscribe that amount does not mean I have the, let's say, the efficiency is not at par with the amount of data that I subscribe onto. So I'd say it's not the same.
Getting an opportunity outside without internet is, the opportunity will be slim, you understand? But with internet and phones online, you'll be able to see things for yourself and apply for.
In LinkedIn now, you get jobs in LinkedIn. Even on Instagram, some people just go their way, they'll post and like say, okay, this is one job opportunity, and I think so.
While internet access provides opportunities, navigating this digital space requires strategy and focus. According to life coach Ezeogu Chukwuemeka, young people must also leverage online learning as tools to maximize their benefits.
If you're going to accumulate expertise, the kind that allow you drive through a career path into a place where you can package that expertise you developed along that journey and deploy across board. If you're going to go through that journey well, then you need to actually focus on how to acquire specific expertise, and that's what online learning does for you. One of the advantages is that you can actually select a course for specific competence.
For those in entrepreneurship, the possibilities are endless. One such story is that of Eunice, a tech entrepreneur who went from being a regular undergraduate to starting a profitable career in tech.
I started working at Zeda as a product designer. And while working at Zeda as a product designer, I also had like contract roles for certain companies in the UK, in Nigeria. So, and while I was doing this, I was still taking courses, because sometime in 2022, I got a 1-year scholarship to study human-computer interaction at Interaction Design Foundation in Denmark, and that opportunity also opened me to a lot of resources.
From content creators to techpreneurs, Nigerian youths are proving that with internet access, the possibilities are endless. The digital hustle is here to stay, and it's redefining what success looks like in today's world. In Lagos for News Central, I am Chidima Ona.
Well, I'll tell you that the Premium Bread Makers Association of Nigeria has convened a team of industry experts to address the economic pressures facing the bread making sector, aiming to develop adaptive innovations that can sustain competitiveness amid rising costs. The event, which was held recently in Lagos, focused on the theme Innovations in a Dynamic Bread Making Industry using local and affordable alternative ingredients. News Central's Omolola Ololade has more in this report.
Bread, which used to be an affordable meal for many Nigerians, is becoming a luxury delicacy in the country, making it a major concern for bread lovers and bread makers alike. Like other businesses in the country, bread makers seek to address the economic pressures facing the bread-making industry. Hence the annual general meeting by the Premium Bread Makers Association of Nigeria, which brought together key representatives from the value chain to explore alternative and affordable ingredients to bread making.
This is our second edition. When you see the idea of trying to do something around local manufacturing, trying to see how we can get experts in the industry, R&D, NAFDAC, and our regulators to see what we can do, to see how we can look inward as a country. And that's why our theme is innovation in the dynamic bread making industry using local and affordable alternative ingredients.
While bread makers believe finding alternative ingredients will help cut costs, Nigerian millers and baking equipment companies focus on the inherent challenges of using locally produced raw materials and the rising cost of machines.
Nigeria needs about 5 million metric tons of wheat annually. What we have been able to produce so far, even in the best year, has been somewhere below 500,000. So where you have big demand and the supply is far lower, then definitely you should expect high prices.
They should try to optimize their production. If they can try to produce more, they'll be able to spread, their costs over the extra unit of production that they produce, But if they produce less, it will crash at the end of the day. So it's just to optimize their production capacity.
However, the Federal Institute of Industrial Research encouraged bread makers to use alternative ingredients like cassava, while admitting that low acceptance of bread made with cassava may be a major challenge for business owners.
You cannot force human beings. They have to make their own choices and their preferences. So FIRO's role is to do the investigations and to make the results known and encourage as well so that the results can be taken up.
Bread makers therefore believe that adaptive innovations are essential to navigating an unstable economic environment, thus calling on relevant stakeholders to play their role accordingly. In Lagos for News Central, I am Omolola Ololade.
The news continues in West Africa, where 1 million Ivorians have applied to register for the first time on the electoral roll for the 2025 presidential election. Cote d'Ivoire's Independent Electoral Commission Chief Bamba Siaka disclosed this during a press briefing. The announcement of the provisional tally comes after a month-long process of revising the electoral lists, with 943,157 first-time registration applications. Siaka welcomed the clear increase compared with the previous revision of 2022 to 2023, when 575,489 new applicants were registered.
La catégorie 1, c'est-à-dire des personnes figurant sur la liste électorale sollicitant un changement de lieu de vote ou de modification de données personnelles. 517 927 requérants, dont 283 419 hommes et 234 505 femmes. S'agissant de la catégorie 2, définition, personnes sollicitant une première inscription, 943 157 requérants, dont 511 125 hommes et 432 032 femmes. La commission électorale indépendante a enregistré 1207 requêtes en radiation d'électeurs supposés décédés.
Outside Africa, Israel's military says it had killed 2 commanders involved in Hamas's October 7, 2023 attack, pressing its North Gaza offensive after the International Criminal Court issued arrest warrants over the war. With Israel also fighting Hamas's ally Hezbollah in Lebanon, footage showed several strikes early on Friday in Beirut's southern suburbs where the Iran-backed group holds sway. The International Criminal Court on Thursday said that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his former Defense Minister Yoav Gallant may bear criminal responsibility for the war crime of starvation as a method of warfare and other crimes against humanity against Palestinians in the besieged Gaza Strip. The Hague-based court's decision drew mixed reactions from the world leaders, with some vowing to arrest the Israelis if they entered their country's territory.
صار لي 5 دقائق طالع من بيتي بتطلع رايح شق على اختي بتطلع بلاقي انه اجى الصاروخ ببيتي ركضت لشوف شو في لقيت اصلا ما عاد في اثار بيت في جوره كثير كبيره وصرنا نلملم اشلاء على بعد مئات الامتار اشلاء كثير صغير عايش هون انا وزوجتي ومعي عندي 4 اولاد من ضمنهم بنت مقعده مش بس مقعده ما بتعرف تحكي ولا تمشي ولا شيء يعني بنت بس مسطحه بالارض هيدي اللي اجى الصاروخ بحرجها.
بيت مدنيه ما في لا عسكر ولا شيء وهذا البيت مدني وهذا البيت مدني وانا عم تجي عم تضرب بيوت المدنيه هون راح 6 شهداء وتحت بيت مدني كمان راح 6 شهداء كلها عم يجوا يضربوا على بيوت المدنيه وباب.
Now, South Africa's rand firmed on Thursday after the central bank opted for a modest 25 basis point cut to its main interest rate, bringing it to 7.75%, in line with economist expectations. Analysts had speculated about a possible larger cut after recent data showed inflation fell below the central bank's 3 to 6% target range. However, SARB Governor Leseya Hanyango dismissed the idea of a 50 basis points cut, citing global risks and emerging domestic price pressures. By 16:02 GMT, the rand had strengthened by about 0.4% to 18.0425 against the dollar. Danny Grief of ETM Analytics noted that a larger rate cut was never really on the cards, given SARB's cautious stance amid new price risks. We talk sports now. The president of Nigeria Football Federation, Alhaji Ibrahim Musa Guzo, has been elected as the first vice president of the West African Football Union, WAFU B Zone. The election took place in Niamey, Niger Republic, on Friday, on the margin of this year's CAF African Schools Football Championship, WAFU B qualifying tournament, taking place in that country. President of Ghana Football Association, Kurt Edwin Simeon Okraku, was elected president of the zone, while Umaru Sawadogo, president of Burkinabe Football Federation, was elected as the second vice president. The WAFU B zone is made up of 7 countries, namely Nigeria, Togo, Benin Republic, Ghana, Burkina Faso, Niger Republic, and Cote d'Ivoire. We also tell you that the Badminton Federation of Africa has launched a groundbreaking initiative in Nigeria targeting Olympic success at the Los Angeles 2028 Games, dubbed Road to LA 2028. The program is designed to prepare Nigerians and other African badminton players to compete at the highest level on the global stage. President of the Badminton Federation of Nigeria and BCA Council member Francis Obi described it as a bold step towards long-term success. The partnership between the BFN and the BCA aims to transform Africa's badminton landscape, ensuring the continent's players are equipped to challenge the world's best. European champions Spain will play the Netherlands in the quarterfinals of the Nations League, while on Friday's draw, they will be pitted against Germany and Germany against Italy in another last 8 clash. Spain won the last edition after beating Croatia on penalties in the final. They also finished runners-up in the 2020-2021 tournament. In the quarterfinals, France takes on Croatia in a repeat of the 2018 World Cup final, and Portugal go up against Denmark. The winners of the Spain-Netherlands tie will advance to a semi-final against either France or Croatia. Cristiano Ronaldo's Portugal, his country, would await Germany or Italy in the other last 4 encounter. Portugal won the inaugural edition in 2019 before France won the title 2 years later. The quarterfinal ties will be played over 2 legs from March 20 to 23 next year. And that's all on the news at this hour. Before we go, we'll look at our top stories anyway. Federal government stops October Federation Accounts Allocation Committee revenue to Rivers State. Supreme Court nullifies a National Lottery Act 2005. We also told you that nearly 1 million new voters expected in 2025 as Ivorians go to the polls. Of course, you can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I am Lekon Onobanjo.